Hello together and welcome to the AI Boardroom, episode number 4. It's getting serious, isn't it?
Oh yeah, lots to talk about this week.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to this episode. So, why don't you start and introduce our listeners to what to expect today?
Oh yeah. So we'll kind of do maybe a change up this time around. We'd like to kind of plug in more of the relevant news, and there's a lot that happened last week in the AI land. So we'll kind of start with OpenAI introducing Sora and kind of the impact that it has on the industry, different industries, and why you should care. We'll talk about OpenAI's ChatGPT memory upgrade and some really cool features that it comes with. And then we'll dive into Gemini 1.5 Google announcement with their increase of context window. And then we'll kind of dive into some other topics like the implementations and things to make it more actionable for you. So yeah, really looking forward to it. It'll be packed with info.
I hope that everyone listening today will get out of the podcast with at least some ideas, like what the whole stuff's about and why it's exciting. Because honestly, let's just start like Sora video gen from OpenAI was like the big headline, and like I got people writing to me about this. They don't even look at tech at all, like usually. They just know the letters of AI and that's it. So and even that like got people really excited and worried at the same time. Like I guess a lot of people thought that is right.
Oh, you mean about Sora specifically, or just AI?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really impressive. I think initially, I saw the initial post on LinkedIn actually, and when I saw these videos, I was like, why is ever someone posting a picture of like this landscape, like boring? And I was like, that's AI generated. And I was just like, I had to do a double take. I'm like, I can't believe that this is real. And, now they're also layering AI generated music, and it's like all AI generated, and it's just like so amazing of what technology can do. But I think the more impressive aspect.
So people use other AI tools to generate music for it, or is
yeah.
like?
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's nice.
There's like one. There's a video that I saw. It was just layered over sounds. So someone walking, someone playing music, or nature sounds, and it was like all completely AI generated and layered over AI generated video. So it's like, this is really impressive. And last year we were kind of seeing just the initial versions of DALL-E and Midjourney and everything like that. It was like, this is really impressive. But now we have video and sound.
Yeah.
The pace of technology changing is just amazing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I remember like I had some meeting and I wasn't even able to directly get it, and then a student that works for me, he sent me the link, and I opened it, and like my first impression was like, you could definitely use this for cutscenes, no issues at all. Like imagine how much like drone shots and stuff you do, like just to have cutscenes and like B-roll. Like you basically can say, look, I don't need it anymore. Like go ahead with all your drone restrictions and just generate the video with some text. And like there's so much to talk about. There are also so many different like scenes and ways to look at the stuff. And even in the videos that weren't that good or like that realistic, you had parts which stood out and which were really, really important. Because I can like spoiler it already a bit. Like, it's not the video itself that's the most impressive about this.
What is it? I am intrigued.
Yeah. And it's popping up more and more like around YouTube. That's like the video stuff is nice and the end result is nice, but what's really interesting is like the simulation part of it. But we get to that.
Okay. I'm intrigued myself because I haven't dove into it that long, but that deep. But the one thing that just for our audience to know, so they revealed this video generator that basically takes a text or some prompt that you type in, and it creates a video basically from that prompt up to 60 seconds. So up to this point, you could have used, an AI generated image, and that's how I've kind of animated any of my kind of pictures. You could have used uploaded it into Runway, and then you could get like a few seconds of motion, and people were freaking out that was so cool. But now you have 60 seconds of video. Like if you combine 3 of those clips, you have a music video.
yeah, definitely. And you can even do this because one of the features, as far as I understood, is that you can switch to different scenes and keep the info, like the subject, for example, from the previous scene, and like keep building up on that. And so someone said this. Like a lot of artists are going like nuts about all the AI stuff, and we had the writer strikes and everything. So, but to be completely honest, what's happening right now, and that's what happened with technology all the time, always, is it takes skill more and more out of the equation, so that creativity alone is what's needed. So right now, it's like if you do art, it's like you have to combine creativity with skill. And imagine like the only ones that were able to do like images were the ones who had the skill to use a paper, colors, and a pencil. And today, everyone with an iPad Pro can create similar results, because like you have a lot of like technology helping you out. I will say we lose like some percentage points every time we level up or we abstract stuff, and but in the end, does it really matter? And I think the benefits outweigh oftentimes like this percentage point that you lose. So really interesting
not
stuff.
A devil's advocate specifically, but maybe just food for thought. But because we're democratizing really access to art, right? Through you don't need skills, as you said, or specific training in order to create art. So I think art, or kind of the creation of kind of the traditional methods of like painting oil and like acrylic or whatever other means of actual creation, will become a niche field. So before, it's something that and still to this day, I think really good artwork still costs a lot of money, and I think it's going to be valued a lot more because there's just going to be less artists actually knowing how to apply those traditional methods. And so, I think initially, going back hundreds of years ago, there were a few artists who were painting portraits. They weren't paid well, but, they were really well known. Now we're democratizing access. And so I think it's actually the folks who are sticking to their kind of traditional ways of painting, I think they're going to get elevated. People will know them more because they're really, really, like, there's just going to be a few of them. So that do that type of work. So their work will be valued more.
I think also it's the same with the furniture industry. Like back in the days, you had like people making furniture by hand. Nowadays, you have machines. You have IKEA, which was standardizing everything and all and always. And honestly, I'm most of the time am not willing to pay like the higher price. But if you want something like unique, built for you, custom made, you still can have it. It's just a lot more expensive than it used to be, and that's fine. And like you have to compensate somehow. No, I really cool stuff. I'm not sure if I might share some of the video, at least for the YouTube people.
So I think everyone wondering if either one of us have access to it. So I do not. So, but I'm curious if you've had a chance or if you've gotten access to Sora to actually play with it or no.
No. We like the podcast has, like, you listeners have to listen and have to tell all your friends to listen to, and then I'm pretty sure we get to a point where we get early access to stuff like that. That's the end game, right?
Yeah. So I think just there are a few creators who have access who have been playing around with it, since you'll see a lot of variation, I think, in videos posted other than the OpenAI ones, because they have some certain folks.
Yeah, it was a pretty bold move from Sam Altman just to go on Twitter and say like, yeah, give me your prompts, I just copy paste them. and I think it was also part of the excitement was from that, because people, like, if you see that stuff, you always think, yeah, that has to be handpicked, and like that's not gonna work. Like we just talked like off camera about Copilot and Microsoft showing all the shiny demos, and like reality is not that impressive. And you naturally think, of course, from everything you see, like, yeah, like take that and like deduct 50% and then you get what's real. And this time Sam said, no, I'll just take what you write me and like post it on Twitter, and was got amazing reception. It was really funny to see.
Well, and that's, I think, really authentic kind of demos, and then being very transparent actually pays you dividends, rather than what we saw, the orchestrated demo that I think Google did, that once people found out that it was staged, fired back. Yeah, so I think that there's definitely a lot of value in doing it that way.
This time Google, like we will talk about this, but this time Google introduced Gemini 1.5, and all the demo videos, they explicitly timed everything. they might have sped it up for the video purpose, but they timed everything so you're not in any way, shape, or form have the feeling that someone's trying to screw you over. I was found it it was so offensive that I found it interesting to mention that.
Like, yeah, they have to make sure that they have that evidence display that it was done in real time with no stops in between. But I'm curious. So I was actually asked this question yesterday, because in the topic of healthcare. So, but someone said, well, all of these releases of AI that happened last week, well, Sora is really cool, but how does this impact the industry? And the question that was posed to me was specifically healthcare. And, kind of the response that I've provided, that it's still, again, it's a generative, creative type of tool. So in the verticals or the departments where creativity is something that's needed to support some of those workflows, that's where you're going to see a lot of impact. So healthcare and the patient delivery, kind of supporting the care providers or anything like that, I don't see as big of an impact. But marketing or maybe advertisement, creating I think demos and things like that, maybe. But I don't know if you've kind of had that question posed to you, or what your maybe overall opinion is on how it's impacting the industry.
Of course, you always you always look at the obvious stuff first, right? So you see a tool generating video, you of course think, okay, it will impact content creator. But trying to come up with an idea for the healthcare industry, for example, might be to hand over a picture and animate how a prosthesis will work afterwards. That's something I could imagine, because that's and now like I might as well talk about what I've mentioned or teased. What we have here is not only something that's generating video. AI is building a world simulator. And that's the really interesting stuff, because if you look at the videos, they are so realistic, once because the lighting is incredible. Like the detail in the lighting, to do that stuff, you in a game, you use stuff like ray tracing and things like that. And this is still a generative transformer model, which is just doing that. Like it just knows how the light has to like go around in the picture, and that's also how you get that realism. If you look at other images, there is like one video where a glass is like falling, and the glass itself is kind of squiggling around, and then it's like hovering in the air, but all the fluid dynamics from the content of the glass, they're pretty much perfect from the realism. Like water
Wow.
might behave like this, and that makes it even more interesting. So now you have stuff like one prompt was like two ships battling in a sea of coffee and a cup of coffee,
I think I've seen that one.
and the fluid dynamics and the movement of the ships, of course, is not perfect, but never was it like told how physics work. There is no there aren't like in computer games you have like really complex mathematical equations that calculate that stuff, and here comes this generative model which just like learned laws of physics from looking at them, and that's pretty impressive. I'm really I'm more excited about that, honestly, than about the video itself, because of course it's nice, but the laws of physics, understanding them just by like training on video, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Now, and that's just the first version of the video, right? You said that it's really good already. There are some things to improve, but just think about the next iteration of that model, how good it's going to be, and then like a few more, and then we won't be able to. We're going to have one of those like mid-journey comparisons, like which picture is or which video is real versus not.
Yeah.
So I think
I'm also like right now they are red teaming it, like I think they call it. So they go ahead and really check the model for security stuff. But I want to be completely honest. Like I think they can wait with releasing that until after the elections, because like the U.S. elections might be the most important in the world, and like having Sora out in the wild for that kind of stuff, or if you release it then just with like the most hard restrictions ever, because it could do a lot of harm. And that's also what I think about all the content generating models, all the text generating models. Like we start to end the internet. I find it kind of interesting because like I've never would have thought that print might get a comeback. So not print itself, but like publishers, because at some point all this generated stuff and all this hallucinated stuff will be so present that the internet's will be pretty much useless for getting any kind of information or getting any kind of truth. And then we're back to times where we had to rely on publishers doing the journalism correct, which like I never would have thought that I will see that, but I'm pretty confident now that it will happen like this. So.
Do you think it's better to provide that oversight in print or provide better oversight over the internet?
Print was a bit like exaggerating. It's just the publishers themselves.
I'm saying like, so ultimately it's oversight, right? So making sure that you're kind of quality assurance
curated
of
stuff.
The output. But would it be better to do it at the publisher level, or should we be thinking about internet oversight and how and where this AI generated stuff gets published?
I'm not sure if you will be able to do it like properly. I think there will just be like a lot of noise, a lot of entertainment, and we have to build trustful, because you won't be able to believe anything. Who else than like a licensed publisher who might be even not allowed to use Gen AI? Who else will be trustful enough for you to be sure that it's not that it's not an AI video of any sorts, but a real recording on a camera? Honestly, I've like the Sora videos running the whole time, and I'm looking at it, and like 99% of the time I'm not seeing any difference to real life. So because like now I don't think so. I like, even if you will be still able to tell if it's Gen AI or not in the details, like people have like starting to have TikTok videos not even 60 seconds anymore because they cannot concentrate on them. So I'm not sure if that's going, like the internet like we know it will end, and will decay into entertainment, and then you will have some credibility measures, publishers, official journalists, like verified influencers, whatever, some authority where they will be legally obligated to tell the truth and to not use Gen AI for their work.
So should we consider starting a publisher business on the side while we're kind of doing these podcast coverages?
Yeah, I mean, no, of course, everything's just maybe like I think there is always the option that stuff plateaus and that the and there is not that last jump to get really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like look at self-driving cars, for example, right? We are like on the edge of getting it right for how long now? 1.5 decades. It's
yeah.
I'm and talking to the experts in the field, you talk to them, they say, yeah, might be tomorrow, might be in 10 years. So they don't know, and that's I think always an option. But yeah, still really impressive stuff. Really looking forward to the entertainment part, because honestly, I had so often like ideas for movies and stuff like that, and we will get a future where I just can discuss this with an AI and it just creates the movie for me, which is kind of nice. And then maybe I get another tool to get myself as like the main character into the movie, and then I'm fine.
There's actually there was another live event on LinkedIn that I did, and I basically said, I think sometime in the future, in the next 2 to 5 years, we'll be able to have the TV personalize our videos for us. And so instead of you browsing Netflix for a movie that you want to watch, it's going to create or recommend one that's personalized to you with the actors and actresses that you like to watch. And it's going to be, or maybe you're even one of the characters in the movie. I don't know, but I don't know that it's even in the 2 to 5 year window. I think it's much closer than we truly think.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, but yeah, time will tell. Impressive nonetheless. I told before the episode, I told to Svetlana, like, I'm pretty sure I could talk about Sora half an hour. We're already 20 minutes in, so.
One last question. I do think that I can't, just resist myself from asking, but do you think Hollywood, Pixar, Disney are freaking out?
Yeah, they're screwed. Pretty much think so, because yes and no. Like, they're big companies, they have a lot of money. They somehow find their way around, but they are bound by, especially Disney. Like, Disney's producing so much garbage because they are bound by some self-induced wokeness, which kind of, like, people don't want this. Obviously, like, people don't go watch the movie because, like, they have created policies that do not they're not made for more equality. They have a lot of but they have a lot of traps that make the movies bad, and that opens a market. There is an opportunity here right now because Disney is not doing it. Like, what was the last good movie you've seen? Like, I think mine was Oppenheimer last summer. And I really love to go into movies, and I'm really not that much of a movie critic, so I'm pretty satisfied with the movie that's like half good. And still, like, movies gotten so bad lately. That, and especially Marvel. I love Marvel from the bottom of my heart, but I didn't watch the last movie in the cinema, like the first one in 15 years, that I didn't watch in the theater. And yeah, it's kind of that there is an opportunity, a market, and Gen AI comes like for the worst point possible for them, because you already have Japanese studios with like a tenth of the budget doing a good Godzilla movie, which just works. And imagine these people then getting also Gen AI and generate cutscenes, videos, save another couple million on that. save a lot of CGI costs. It's like the animated stuff. Like, it's not only doing photorealism. Sora is doing animated stuff that's basically pixel level. So, I think that's, like you said, democratizing. I think that's a good point. You still will need teams, and you still will. That's something I'm still not sure. I think you still will need some humans for being stars, for being like people to look up to. On the one hand, on the other hand, we have virtual influencers. We have how do they call them? People that stream with an avatar, like not their face. Like they stream like in the main time, and they have a lot of people watching them, and they don't even know who the person behind it is because they have like a VTuber they call. They just have a virtual avatar, some more, some less sophisticated, and that's how they do their content and get it out. So yeah, maybe even the stars, the Hollywood stars, are going to disappear. Who knows?
Yeah, that's an interesting. Yeah, more to talk about once it's released. I'm sure we're going to bring that topic back at some point in the near future once we get a chance to play around with it. Or create our own videos and then post them to our YouTube channel so for you guys to watch.
I honestly, I just want something that gets a proper avatar of me, just like with 20 to 30 kilograms less weight, and and where I just write the script and it talks and does that. Like I don't have to sit in front of the camera. I like to sit in front of the camera, but still I could produce a lot more content that is valuable if I didn't have to do all the producing stuff around it. So yeah,
that's an
interesting
opportunity
stuff
there. So should we move on to the memory upgrade of ChatGPT? What that means?
Definitely.
So for those that don't know what ChatGPT kind of released, so they basically enhanced their capability of storing user basically preferences and previous chats. So instead of you kind of starting a new conversation each time, and then it just basically keeps the context of that chat only, and then you can basically chain prompt. You can add additional prompts within that chat. It actually remembers your previous kind of conversations that you've had, any frameworks you've shared, anything
if you
that
want to.
Yes, and I think that's the another enhancement. So I think that instead of kind of rolling it out across all chats, and you're like, well, what if I change my mind about this? So like, I don't want it to be part of it. There is a functionality that they've released alongside with it that's called, I believe, like privacy
Temporary
controls.
They're also you can also just say, okay, it's a temporary chat, and the chat will not go into the history.
Yeah. So you can manage your preferences. Basically, you can go into each one of those chats and say, do not consider this, or you can even delete the conversations altogether, so they're not part of the memory. But one thing that I do want to nuance, just deleting the conversation, that's what I read on OpenAI's website. Deleting the chat doesn't remove it from memory. You actually have to go into their kind of privacy controls, the management, and turn off the exact chats that you have. So I did want to nuance that. So don't just go deleting your conversation and thinking that that's going to take care of it. It's not. You actually have to go kind of the longer path of disabling the conversations in their privacy controls. Yeah,
I think I always tend to say that. I think I said it in the first episode. ChatGPT is just a good app, and it's like the best of its kind. So I don't see any other AI interface that's that combines powerful models and a good app with all the features in such a way. That's what you get if you start early, right? There's some interesting strategies which you can apply to your AI solution too. They don't like just plainly save the text, but they like do a summary of it. So they save key information from the chat history, because like obviously not the whole history has a lot of value for future conversations, but some stuff might have, and it's like from like application design perspective, it's a pretty good thought out way to improve it. I've not tried it yet, but I'm really hoping that it gets kind of my preferences, because I've a lot of times I'll have to correct the same errors and give the same instructions to like be more granular about my initial request. And I really hope that he like gets that I want answers in some specific way and applies it to new chats automatically. That would be cool.
And
but
maybe
yeah,
the prompt libraries maybe going away, because if it's going to remember your preferences, then you might not have to have these long prompts, repeated prompts that you're submitting to.
No, even if I have a GPT pre-assigned with system prompts and stuff like that, it's not the same. Like because you still have nuances that you just can't pre-make, and they are not the same all the time. That's why having like memory is kind of a continuously improving system. So now you not only have a static knowledge base like you have it, for example, in a GPT, but you have something that's improving over time, which is one of the ways I approach the AI solutions, and which also makes Google's announcement we just will talk about in some minutes even more interesting, because there is a really nice angle on application design, which I think is still not explored enough, and not used enough, because if it would, then Microsoft's Copilot, for example, would be a better solution. Yeah.
Well, and I think one thing that I want you to kind of round out, and then we can move on to the Gemini 1.5. But one thing that you said, one way to think about ChatGPT is because they were released, were first to market in the way with their chatbot that's more publicly accessible than some of the previous large language models. They're kind of the iPhone equivalent, right? They were first to market, and they're just really built with high quality. They continue to deliver.
Wasn't the first to market, but yeah.
They were the first to build something that was usable.
That's better. Yeah. A lot of people would debate that too, but I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and but I think it still remains as one of the more user friendly. People do stick to iPhone products, kind of, and they upgrade each generation. It's just because there's quality, there's the usability that people really like. It's just one of those things that, and that it's built in a reliable way, so it lasts you a few years. Same thing with, I think, ChatGPT, and kind of some of these other models. You have the Amazon Fires, you have kind of the Android. I mean, to each their own. Some people love Perplexity, some people love Cloud. But I think the majority of folks are still going to continue to use ChatGPT because of these added features. They're just innovating significantly faster, just like iPhone continues to innovate with like their apps, their other features, and although they slowed in the recent years, but they still deliver really high quality products. Yeah.
So you have to have a stable platform to then be able to attract also external so like, for example, Microsoft, in all what they are doing, they are always, at least on the B2B side, really partner focused. So Microsoft really relies on partners to bring solutions to their platforms, even if they have a ERP system, for example, for managing your company. They pretty much rely a lot on external forces. There are waves of Microsoft trying to go by themselves, and then they are like, okay, even 120k employees are not enough to do everything by ourselves. Let's go back to our like 1 million plus partners to build stuff for us. And it's the same with AI. If you talk with, I don't know how it's now, but like 5 months prior, I talked to Microsoft guys. And they were pretty much like, yeah, we have all the tooling and all this stuff, but I think you can come up with solutions. Can you? That's definitely something. Yeah, you have to hold against them. It always falls apart if there is no stable platform. So Microsoft would do a better job, or is doing a better job always, when they try to provide a really, really good platform and to not do it themselves. So I think Copilot will also get better, and people try build applications on top of it, and so will ChatGPT too. So there is no other platform with so many already built-in tooling, and so much built-in tooling, and so many options now with GPTs to even extend that tooling. So, yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
in the end, it's no company in the world is big enough to do all by themselves, and they are pretty much reliant on other people trusting their platform to exist 2 years down the road, 5 years, 10 years. Yeah, I think ChatGPT is gaining more and more trust.
And I think as we talked about in the previous episode, we for those who may have missed it, but these systems, when they're released, they are not perfect. So, and I think some of the developers, when they release these systems, knowingly that it's not 100%, right? So these systems do get better with usage. And so instead of iterating kind of in silos, kind of behind the scenes in the developer side, you want to release these systems, but you have to take some precautions, as you've kind of mentioned, form red teams who evaluate the output, so it doesn't kind of bite you in the butt once you release it. But you definitely want to release those models early so you can get that feedback to ensure the models improve. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure if they wouldn't have had the ChatGPT release and all the people doing like thumbs up, thumbs down on the answers, GPT-4 wouldn't have been as good. Because like because it's basically reinforcement learning with human feedback, and that's it was a genius move. It was a risky move, but it was a genius move nonetheless. So
high risk, high reward. So
yeah, that's why they always will have an edge on Google, because they are a small startup company. They are not Google with all the responsibilities they have and all the suability kind of. And that's why Google has to be a lot more careful with releasing that stuff. Because like the state ChatGPT was in at its release, Google would have gotten a big shitstorm.
Oh yeah,
for that. So they are at a disadvantage, and being like an agile startup is it's a pretty good spot to be in at the moment if you have the funding, of course. So.
Yeah, big pockets, big lawsuits. So so quick. Do you want to pivot to our last?
We talked
update.
Talked
I
about
think
Google,
you're the most excited about this one, so I know that you wanted to kind of leave the best for last. So you want to cover what that Gemini 1.5, what that's all about?
Yeah, it's because it's I'm pretty stoked about that one specifically because it's the most practical, and I will elaborate on that a bit, because we have a model from Google, a model update kind of. It seems to get an industry standard that you do 1.5 models, or 0.5 models. So Gemini 1.5 has some really interesting stuff. First of all, I think they first now are releasing the Pro version, not the Ultra version. But the 1.5 Pro version is on the same level as the 1.0 Ultra version is. Which is kind of nuts thinking about it, because the Ultra version is already pretty fast. The Pro version is even faster, and having now a Pro version on the result level of the Ultra version, and what was 2-3 months apart or something.
But there's a difference in size, right? I think what's really impressive is the model size, right? Are there other kind of components? So what makes them different, and why is their, I would say, performance so impressive?
I'm not exactly sure on that, honestly, because I'm just reading it. They seem to now have also a mixture of expert models, a model behind that, which we know it now from GPT-4, which is also a mixture of expert level model, and also there was Mixtral, which was a mixture of expert model from I forgot how are they called. Mixtral from Mistral AI, and they have proven that combining several smaller models with specific skills gets you a hell of a lot better results. And seemingly the 1.0 version wasn't a mixture of expert model, which kind of makes it really, really interesting. Because I have to say, I always accepted that like generating an answer with GPT-4 takes its time, because like, yeah, it has to generate the stuff. It might be pretty complex. And Google now with the Ultra model is like 3 times faster. I think also like I asked my brother, and he couldn't tell me exactly why, because but what he told me, like just from research standpoint, the same size model has the same inference time period. There is like not a better version, because you have to multiply vectors, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Google's infrastructure is just so massive, and their tensor chips, which they have for compute, which are specific chips for that, are so good. That's, I think, one of the reasons why it's so fast. Now they add the mixture of expert model, which gives them an architectural benefit, and then my really, well, I'm really looking forward. It's not out yet, but it's in the test. It's like the context size, because besides all the benefits in performance, Google announced that it now standard comes with 128,000 tokens of a context window for your input. And additionally to that, they test now with a small group a million token context window, which is just massive. I think it's like a 700,000 word text.
It's like how many words is in like a book? I'm just trying to make it more concrete for our users. Do you know?
I think Claude always said they can read a book with 300 pages or something. But like, what's a book like? What size? Kind of like, it's a bit weird. But yeah,
like multiple books. Basically, it could take up. You could upload multiple books to Gemini now and work with that knowledge. Yeah.
And what it makes really interesting, at least from what they showed, they uploaded, for example, the transcript of the complete Apollo 11 mission, which is like 326,000 token. And they asked for specific conclusions on different parts of the transcript, which were kind of in the middle. And that's what held big context windows back for the time being, is that we have the lost in the middle problem. And that means basically we have models which get a lot of text or context. They are pretty much aware of what's going on in the beginning and what's going on in the end of the context, but they kind of tend to lose information or not be aware of information in the in between. And at least from the demos Google showed, it seems like they've solved this. There was a paper from UC Berkeley last year, which suggested that this might be possible. But seeing this in action now is really cool. And in addition to that, it's not only text. You can upload a whole film. I think it's not a whole film. I think it's like up to 1 hour of film or something. Like a 44-minute.
You mean the transcript or an actual movie?
The movie.
Oh wow!
Like the video. You can upload the video, and if a 44-minute Buster Keaton movie. Okay. It's even a silent movie. Interesting. Yeah, it's a silent 44-minute movie. It's like 700,000 tokens, kind of in that ballpark. And then you can just ask about specific scenes, and it just spits them out without text. It's like a silent movie, right? And it's truly multimodal, it seems. Really impressive stuff. I'm really looking forward to that, because it offers so much options and possibilities to be really useful and helpful. Because having a big context and it being usable in combination, that's truly groundbreaking.
So can you talk? Yeah, let's talk maybe a little bit of what is different. So there are a lot of discussion, and the way that enterprises actually implement some of these open source models in their enterprises is via RAG LLM, right? You kind of have used that paradigm. So what's different then?
Maybe you tell the audience what RAG stands for.
So RAG is retrieval augmented generation. So the way I like to explain how that typically works is, so let's say, Edgar is sitting in the room. I come up to him and I give him a test. I'm like, here's an accounting test and you have an hour to complete it. So all you can rely on is the training that you have. So he's the large language model. He's ChatGPT. He's basically taken that exam from relying on the training information that he's received in school, college, whatever. So he takes an hour, he completes it, he gets a score. With the retrieval augmented generation, I'll go up to Edgar and I say, hey, you have this accounting exam to complete, but now behind you, there's a door that takes you to the library that has all of these accounting books that you could pull information from. And so if you can go into them and, use it to basically find the answers to the code. And there's just a lot of other things, you need to index that data. So the index would be equivalent to kind of having a map. So instead of just going through each book and thousands of books and flipping every page, he has a cheat sheet and to help him navigate which question is located where in that library, so that he can navigate it sooner. So there's again other aspects to the RAG LLM kind of implementation, but that's kind of the essence. So you have access to this external source of data to pull information from when you prompt the large language model. So it's not relying on its own expertise. It's actually retrieving information that's being augmented by information that's external to it.
Yeah.
So anything to add there? I don't know if that's...
No, I love the description. It's pretty much on point. So, like retrieving information to then use it in the task. That's basically what we try to achieve. And what happens here is you have kind of you build your context with the information you found in the book. So you take the information, and the more information you can take and you can actually use, the better the better is the context you have to solve the question, to solve the task in front of you. And there is a whole lot of stuff which comes from that, but the most interesting part is the term in context learning, and that's also what Google tells a lot. Because if you want to do better at a task with a large language model, you usually, back in the days with small context windows, you usually had to train it on specific tasks which are suited to your problem. Now we have this large context window, and in-context learning means, okay, everything the LLM needs to know additionally, I'll give it to him in the context, or to it in the context, and then he can, and at the end of the context, I'll put the question and say, please use the context to solve the question. So we now have a situation where I don't need some pretty expensive training of a model to get it specialized. Now I have a big context window, and I can just throw in all the information that might be useful for solving the question, and just go for it. Of course, it has also cost perspective, because of course, if you have a longer context window, you have more token. It's just more expensive to do the inference. And it also takes time. I think the request for retrieving the scene from the movie was 60 seconds or so. But it's only 60 seconds to scrub through a movie and find the right scene and give you the timestamp. I think it's the options for applications, also especially for businesses, are going to increase by a huge amount, and will be ready a lot faster because you don't have to build up training sets, you don't have to reserve some GPUs to train your model, or wait like a long time, and you just then focus on the retrieval part and get the retrieval as good as you can, get the documents as good as you can, and maybe use AI to not only read the knowledge base but to improve on the knowledge base, and then you get a self-learning system which improves the basis for its context. Of course, always with human intervention, like at least that's how I do it, because someone has to look at it to be sure that's like not decreasing the quality of your knowledge base. But yeah, solutions like that, they really will bring us forward to commercial grade applications. And that's something that's still rare to this day.
There's just a lot to take in here, but I think they're expanding again possibilities. So before you kind of had, just think about the evolution in the last year and how like, I think mind-blowing it is. So initially you just kind of got the chat and then you couldn't carry on the conversation, and they introduced like memory so that you could actually, be able to build on those prompts. And kind of carry some of that memory from the previous conversations. Now they've expanded and they're like, okay, well, what if we want you to upload documents? You could upload documents, but what if we want you to do more? What if we have an entire database of documents? Sure, here's RAG LLM. Well, what if we want you to do even more than that? And so I think now we're going to kind of just stretching all the capabilities, and I think we're just going to see more and more of that flexibility. Yeah. So again, even some of those components that you're mentioning of self-learning, I think these things, there probably is already on their roadmap to basically embed in their existing. So it's just a matter of time. So, and one thing that I say a lot, when I consult companies and have these discussions, is that you have to build your systems very flexibly. So don't modularly, but just assume that at some point, some of these kind of enhancements that we're kind of talking about will become core of the product. So don't invest too much time in architecting and hard coding all of these services. Make sure they're flexible, because I think, again, they might be just part of the architecture just out of the box offered. Yep. So you may not need to even worry about them. So just something to think about. Don't hard code anything in the era of AI. You want to have that flexibility in your architecture and your solution to be able to react to changes like this. Because, they're all valuing our users, and ultimately they're building much more efficient solutions.
Yeah. I think it's like, I would partly agree, like mostly agree. I think you should sometimes save the time for doing a flexible solution and just go for the hard-coded one, because it's just so much faster oftentimes, and you have to throw it away anyway at some point. So yeah, why even bother? So that's one angle to look at it. But of course you're right. Like if you can, you should stay open to. For example, like I built most of my applications in a way I can now. I could theoretically just switch to Gemini if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. Or just add it to the pipeline. So that's how you, like with every application, think about application design to not lock yourself too much into something. Sometimes it's not avoidable, or only avoidable with high costs. That's what I meant. Like then just leave it and do the proprietary stuff. Go for it. But sometimes, you just I start the sentence in another way. I would suggest, if you think about solutions, try to think freely and try to think like how you would love to have it solved with AI, and don't think too much on how would I have solved it back in the day. Mm-hmm. Try to imagine, how would I solve it with AI? How would I type it into ChatGPT, for example? Like, because if you look at it, like using ChatGPT is like a really restrictive tooling, kind of, because you only can type in text or upload an image, but you don't have like a big set of tools, and you have to use your words basically, to be able to just come to a solution.
Yeah. First, I mean, all of these tools are, you have a problem and it's a tool, it's a means to the end, which is to get you the output that you want. So yeah, I do agree. I think what I wanted to kind of as it relates to application design. So in terms of releases like this, right? So if you've kind of hard-coded your architecture to be like really configured to the T with ChatGPT, but then Gemini comes out 1.5, and you're like, it would be so awesome if we could plug this in, because this could actually give us results. So, and actually, you should be testing. And I think one of the principles that of just AI implementation is experimentation. So you don't know what you don't know. So sometimes, some of these smaller models will actually perform for your use case to, again, solve a problem that you have better at a lot lesser cost than one of these massive giant models. So experiment often, but also build it in a way so you can react when some of these newer releases. So as Edgar was mentioning, like you could just drop it in his architecture right now and start using it tomorrow. So you want that flexibility for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And talking just like I was advocating for that already for the last 6 months minimum, that I'm not a big fan of training a model, but more into try to think about a proper RAG pipeline to retrieve all the context you need to solve a question. But there is one small part which I want to add, and it's something that even I in my solution might have to consider at some point. You talked about the cheat sheet, the index basically which helps me to quickly find the information and retrieve the information. That's a pretty good point. That cheat sheet is in the AI world is like the embeddings. So you take text and you create a number representation of the semantics of it. And that's something where the better this is, the better your retrieval gets. And there it might, and if you have, for example, if you are in an industry where you're coal mining, so then you have a lot of specific wording. You have a lot of words that are just used differently in the context of coal mining compared to everything else. So and there it might be really good to have a custom trained embedding model, so that your contents just are understood better, and then the retrieval will be better. So it's kind of a hybrid approach there. Something to also think about when you feel like, okay, I have the whole retrieval pipeline, but the retrieval is not good or not consistent enough. Then think about maybe training your own embedding model to understand your language better, or the language of the field you wanna work in.
Yeah. So rather than retraining the entire model, you're retraining a component, which is smaller and maybe not
more
as
efficient.
difficult to train. Yeah. So that's really smart.
And then there are the one edge case I think training a model is still something you can do, is if you want a small model with a really specific task or really specific task field basically, and you want this model to perform as fast as it can, then I think you should look into training. But then don't start with a GPT-4 size model. Try to find the smallest model that's getting already close to what you want to achieve, and train that one.
That was a really good. I think training, again, just in general, especially with large language models, is a huge consideration from a cost perspective. So when you're doing your use case identification, so if you were to use, just to put it on the spectrum, I think to associate costs, if you take out of the box open source, and it's $20 a month, right, for you to just use as get a subscription. If you want to implement, some no code. You have to pay for like additional hosting fees and everything like that. So incremental addition to that. If you want to implement RAG LLM, you now start to consider bringing, you could do it with no code, but if you wanted to, if you're in a highly regulated industry and you have to bring that service into your infra and host those locally, then you're basically paying for the infra costs plus the, all of the other components that you're used to customizing it. And again, the extreme example, what Edgar was kind of talking about, you could either customize those components even further or retrain the monster. The retraining of the monster is going to be probably on the very, very right side of the spectrum of being like the most expensive, because just of the, not only just the compute costs, but some of these systems, like I don't think people realize it took to retrain, these systems and why they're not updated as frequently. You don't see like real live updates, and then you see like OpenAI saying like, "Oh, knowledge is as current as 3 months ago," because it's so expensive and it takes months, like weeks, if not months, for them to train these models. So it's really intense. So yeah, definitely consider that as being like very cost prohibitive. So be creative if that's even a consideration for you for how you could fine tune or retrain other components of the solution, or be creative in like other things, because I would say retraining is like should be a last consideration.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also, like I said, look out for small solutions. Phi2, Orca 2 from Microsoft, both small. Like Orca is a little bit bigger, but like in general, like more or less small language models, which are good for one or two specific jobs, and they're really good in that for that job. They're nearly as good for that one job as like the big models are in general, or even better at some point. And then that's definitely something to look after, because, for example, if you have a really complex RAG pipeline, you do several inference calls. It stretches, so it really you have really long response times. It's still quicker than us talking to a human, but like there is this perception and this how do you say it? Like this like expectation that the answer should come quickly, like we're used from the internet. So, and that's why. You have to find a good balance between speed and complexity.
And I think one example, just to like maybe land that home, because I have explained this to someone else, but it's like when you use a small model, let's say you're comparing a 7 billion parameter model to, I don't know, what's the latest on ChatGPT or GPT-3, let's say 100 billion, whatever, tokens, or I'm sorry, parameters. And so it's the difference of starting a motorcycle versus a cruise ship. So every time you run an inference, you could either, do it quick and get an answer, and that's basically what your response time is going to be. Or you could start up a cruise ship that has multiple engines, and it's just going to take a really long time to even get that whole thing, that machinery going before you get an output. So it's limited technically. It's just much more massive at scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty perfect. So it was a bit different this time. I really like this kind of open format, discuss ideas and also the broader context of the releases. Like if we get another big release week, we'll definitely do this again. But last week was crazy. I love it. Like AI just like pops out like. Gemini 1.5 and Sora was even the same day. It's kind of wild. Yeah.
Well, there was a period of like no news. I want to say like there were a few, smaller kind of announcements. So I was like, are we entering a winter? Another AI winter or not? But and then there was like a whole bunch. It's like, no, wait, there's more. So I think that they were probably cooking things up from after the New Year's, and there's just going to be more and more people catching up to this.
We still can rely on Sam bringing the heat, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm so intrigued by what he wants.
Too,
what he's going to use the $1 trillion. There's also some noise that I've been hearing of Elon Musk pursuing something that's new and novel. It's secretive, but yeah, as we find out more, I'm happy to discuss. And then there's the lead computer scientist, if I'm not mistaken, if I got his role correctly, Andre Karpathy. Thank you. Yeah. Left OpenAI, and he has his own personal venture. I wonder, I'm like really intrigued what that is.
That's so interesting to look at. He's really smart. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think lots of things. I think we probably will be coming out later in the year. So yeah, truly exciting as those news come out, that we bring them into the podcast to discuss.
And especially for our audience, or like at least our targeted audience. We are. I think this will be a really, really interesting year for commercialized AIs. At some point in the year, we do like a lot of outtakes, looking back at the year would be nice. Commercialized AI. That might be what the headline of the year in terms of AI will be, and I'm really looking forward to it. And you can pretty much rely on us bringing that to you.
Yeah, and I think one thing, I mean, just to round that out before we finish, Sam Altman himself said that this is maybe the year, like this is the time when you were going to start to see billion-dollar AI companies. In valuation, because of the exponential growth that these systems can really generate. And so I think that's, again, we talk about fear of missing out, but in a way, I mean, the technology, if you don't adapt it and create like really disruptive value in the market, there's a lot of potential that you're leaving on the table for, these more agile startup companies to like really grab and disrupt.
Yeah, definitely. So, like always, let me tell you about our YouTube channel, our website, and the AI boardroom.ai, where you can find us, where you can contact us. And also later this year, we will have summaries of our podcast. So if you want to read about some stuff and get the gist of it without watching through a whole episode, will be possible too. We will be here next week from now on weekly with the freshest info. We restructured our release schedule. This is the 4th episode of 4 episodes we released for the start. For everyone, listen to all of them. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. We appreciate also all your feedback, all your comments. We will try to take into consideration the topics that are important for you, so that we can cover it. And with that, I've spoken definitely enough this time.
Well, I think that there's a lot of exciting topics to talk about. So hopefully everyone found value in it. And what we talked about, again, open to all feedback. And you can find us across multiple different channels, web, YouTube, podcasts, and others. So always open ears to hear from you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice day wherever you are, and see you the next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.